We had a very normal day. We took pictures for the first time as a new family. We went to my company picnic at the zoo. It was his first time at the zoo. We hung out with friends that evening and just had a very normal night. We had no idea what was coming.
The alarm went off about, I think, 3 in the morning, and I got up out of bed, turned on the light.
We had a baby monitor that would go off if he stopped breathing or stopped moving for so many seconds.
I was getting up to go check the other room, and she said, "Are you gonna go check on us?" I said, "Just go back to sleep, you're fine."
And that's the last thing that I remember.
She started convulsing, foaming at the mouth, twitching around, and through all of the thrashing, I'm thinking, okay, she's having a seizure. She stopped. There was no movement. There was no what appeared to be any sort of respiration. And so I immediately started CPR on her. Was very freaked out. How could this happen? There's nothing wrong with her. She's 28, in better shape than I am. We'd just been in the hospital for my son being born. They didn't see anything wrong. They said everything was great.
When I woke up, there were paramedics standing over me. I remember my husband telling them that he had done CPR on me. I wanted to move, I wanted to talk, and my body wouldn't let me. All I could do was thrash and scream. I remember them holding me down and telling me that they were going to take me to the hospital.
We get to the emergency room. All of her symptoms had seemed to disappear. I mean, she wasn't convulsing, she was coherent, very scared, as was I, because we had no clue. Nobody knew what actually had happened.
I felt okay. I thought, gosh, this is overkill. Can you please get me out of the hospital?
Luckily, they admitted us overnight, allowed her to stay in the cardiac ICU.
My husband left or decided to go home and stay with our son that night. And my mom was there with me for a while. And I suddenly just started feeling not very well. My head was throbbing, I was feeling dizzy. I just didn't feel like things were right. And the nurse came in, and I remember her looking at the heart rate screen and saying, "This doesn't look very good."
Got a phone call that, please come back to the hospital. Ilex's heart stopped. 3 doctors that were in there said that, her heart stopped. We don't know why. We had to shock her. And that continued on for the entire evening. And it was more or less troubleshooting to figure out what could be doing this. And throughout our discussions, I had mentioned that at one point she had visited a cardiologist for long QT.
I was diagnosed with long QT about 3 years before this event happened, which can potentially cause you to have arrhythmias and go into cardiac arrest. Looking back, I think we just didn't put all of the pieces together. I mean, he'd said if you start having arrhythmias, you need to come back in, and I didn't realize I was having arrhythmia.
The signs weren't there for that to be it, and so after time and consulting with the cardiologist, and through that next morning, the cardiologist said, "Look, this has obviously gone from a low-risk situation to high risk. You're going to have a defibrillator pacemaker installed." And I remember him saying, "You're a survivor." And that really that hit me, because it was true. I mean, we'd gone through that night, and I was very scared. I didn't know if she would make it through the night.
I don't remember a whole lot, to be honest. I just remember, not being able to get out of bed, not being able to do anything, not being able to see my son. They would let my husband bring him up for maybe an hour a day, which was really hard because he was 6 weeks old. I developed very severe anxiety when I was in the hospital. I was hooked up to so many different monitors, and they would beep all the time and make all these noises, and anytime anything happened, I would just look at my husband and say, "What's it doing? What's my heart rate?" And he would say, "You're fine. Everything's fine." My entire stay at the hospital was 9 days long. Didn't really feel like I was ever going to be okay again. When they finally released me from the hospital, It was exciting, but very stressful. I was very stressed out not being monitored all the time as closely. I was stressed out that, I was leaving and I couldn't drive for 6 months, and so many things had changed. My life would never be the same as when I'd arrived. It's a genetic defect. You're born with it. You have it your whole life. And my brother, who is 13, also has long QT. We have type 2, which is triggered by loud noises. So looking back, it makes sense. It was, the alarm going off that was triggering mine. It's been really hard for us because it is a dominant gene, and your children have a 50-50 chance of inheriting the gene. And with Peter, we have really stalled in getting him tested just because we don't want to know. I really don't want to know. And ignorance is bliss a little bit. We are in the process. We're waiting for his results to come back, but it's really hard. And if he does have it, it's going to be really hard to figure out how to manage it. And, we've seen the worst side of what long QT can do. And I think for me, it's so important to continue the research.
When I always thought of heart conditions, I always thought of heart attacks. I never really, until this happened, realized there's a whole other set of things like long QT, which affect many people that maybe don't get the visibility that maybe heart attacks or some of the other items that are more frequent occur. And I think the fact that there are researchers that were able to identify the syndrome, understand how it can be contained, it's given my wife life.
I want my little brother, I want my son, I want any of my future children to be able to live long, happy, healthy, and normal lives. And funding the research that the American Heart Association does will make that possible.